Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today at this Spanish webinar titled Preterite, Imperfect, and Past Participle. This webinar will cover both our high school elective credit as well as our career certificate program. Before we get started, if you've not been to a webinar with us before, you will see a couple of options to interact with us on your sidebar. First, you can raise your hand if you have questions, but it's probably more important that you ask those questions in the questions box listed below. This webinar is being recorded, so you all will receive a copy via email once the webinar has concluded. If you do enjoy today's webinar, please consider joining us at other sessions for your Spanish course. If you're a high school student, we offer webinars in multiple subject areas as well. First of all, bienvenidos a Español. Welcome to Spanish. My name is Zach Lansdowne. I am one of the Spanish instructors. Also with us here today is Dan Chirillo, who is the other. You do have a variety of ways to get in contact with us besides the webinar today. Email and chat options are available through the Help and Support tab of your student portal. You can give us a call between 9 and 6 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, at 1-888-427-1000. You just want to enter your student ID number and select option 5 from the main menu. And finally, you can text the word LEARN to 39033. We also do offer appointments on a one-to-one, so if you're struggling with anything in particular and want to set something up with either of us, we can definitely have an appointment with you, or if you have any questions. Before we get started today, I'd like to just take a couple of polls to see if anybody with us here has taken a foreign language before. So please just answer yes or no on your screen now. Okay, and it looks like most of you have not taken foreign language before, so welcome to Spanish. Definitely a great first language to learn. You know, things may become overwhelming at times, but again, that's what we're here for. Definitely here to help you out along the way. On today's objectives, we are going to explain and practice verb formation in the past tenses in Spanish. And what we have is three different kinds. We have the Preterite tense, which is used to express a past completed action. So in English, we do this with a D or ED onto our verb to designate it in the past. We have the imperfect tense, which is basically the past in progress. So an action that started in the past that is still ongoing in the future. And in English, we say this with a helping verb like was or were, plus your main verb. And finally, we have the past participle, which is a little bit even further in the past. So just a review of conjugation, if this is your first verb webinar. Every verb in Spanish has a distinct ending to tell its person, number, tense, mood, and voice. So what we mean by person is first person, like I or we. Second person, you. Third person, he, she, or they. Now, Spanish is a little bit peculiar. It does have a secondary use of you in the third person. This is really a formality sense. We'll get into more of that at a different webinar. Number, we just mean singular or plural. So again, who is doing the action of that verb. Tense, you know, this webinar is covering past tenses, but we also have verbs in present tense, future tense, etc. The mood, you have a couple of different moods of verbs, and this is basically to tell its quality, if you will. So indicative mood is what we use most of the time, and it's the mood to tell its statements, things that are certain, etc. We also have the imperative mood, which is mood to tell commands. Subjunctive mood, which is the mood of uncertainty. So if you hope for something, if you desire something, you long for something, you're going to be using verbs in the subjunctive. And finally, we have voice, which in this case, we're just dealing with active voice. So the subject is doing the action of the main verb. So a couple of examples to review. We have miro. Okay, this is a first person singular present tense verb, means I look. Okay, but this verb could also be in the past, in the preterite, in the imperfect, it could be in the future, it just has a different ending. Another example, tienen. This is a third person plural present verb, so they have. So start off here with the preterite. And again, the preterite is used to express past complete action. So you did something, it's over, it's not going on anymore. So to start off with conjugation of verbs, we have a verb infinitive, which is the to version of the verb. And we break that up into a stem and an ending. So if you're dealing with an AR verb like cantar, all we're going to do is remove that AR from the infinitive, and then we're going to add in these endings that you see in orange on your screen. So cante, for example, I sang. Cantaste, you sang. Canto, he or she sang, etc. So if you just want to maybe write those down as we're going along. Okay, moving on to the ER verbs. The endings differ a little bit. So in this case, beber, to drink. Again, you have the stem of your verb. In this case, it's BEB, babe. Right, and then just adding these endings to tell you what person, what number you're working with. So baby, I drank. Bebiste, you drank. Bebio, he drank. She drank. Bebimos, we drank. Bebisteus, you all drank. Bebieron, they drank. Now the good news is with the IR verbs that they have the same exact endings as the ER verbs did. So in the case of vivir, to live, we see iste io, imos isteis ieron for our endings. So now what we're going to try to do is a couple of practice sentences using these verbs. And we're going to do it in the poll setting, so please participate. The first practice sentence we'll start with is I sang a song. So we're trying to figure out how to say I sang in the sentence, blank una canción, using the verb cantar. So let me just pull up the poll here and we'll see what you have to say. Please choose an option now. All right, everybody did an awesome job and selected the correct response, Conte, which is correct. Okay, the next one, we would like to say we drank the water. So blank al agua ayer, how would we say beber in the first person plural? Just a moment. Please vote now. Okay, it looks like most of us have voted here. So our correct response, bebimos. Now, an interesting thing, if you know the verb beber, we know that bebimos has two different forms. Okay, so it could be the present tense or it could be the preterite tense. They're both the same. So how would you know? Honestly, if you just look at the sentence, in this case, we see this key word in here, ayer, which is yesterday, which I did not include in the English. I apologize. So we drank the water yesterday. So if you see a key word in there, that'll really help you determine, again, main tense of the verb. Okay, moving on to the imperfect tense. And the imperfect tense, as we said in the beginning, is pretty similar in that it's a past tense, although it's used to express progressive past action, or it could also express a repeated past action. So we'll start with the endings first. The AR endings include aba, abas, aba, abamos, abais, aban. And again, all you're doing here is separating the initial infinitive into the stem plus the ending. So the stem in all of these is HABL plus your ending. Now we can translate these in a couple of ways. So most commonly it's a was or were scenario. So hablaba, that first person singular, I was speaking. However, if you do something every day, so you could say I used to speak every day. And again, as you can see right from this chart, we have two forms that are identical. It's that first person singular and the third person singular. So again, context is really going to determine who is doing the subject here. Okay, so if you have a pronoun in there like el or ea, right, you're dealing with that third person, he or she. If you have yo in there, you're dealing with the first person. Similar to the preterite tense, the imperfect er and ir verbs are going to have the same endings, and those include ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, ian. So comia, I used to eat, or I was eating. Comías, you were eating, or you used to eat, etc. And just to show you an example of the IR and the imperfect beber, again, we see that it's the same endings, just a different stem in this case. All right, so it's poll time once again. A couple more practice sentences, this time though using the imperfect. So our first one, I was speaking with them. Okay, we want to use the verb hablar, to speak. How would we say I was speaking? All right, looks like everybody's voted once again. So share these results. Now, this time we have a little bit of a split scenario. Hablaba, the last response is actually correct. Okay, the first response, hablamos, that is the first person plural of the present tense. So if we want to say we speak with them, that's the form you would use. Again, remember that that aba form here in the imperfect could be first or third. So, in this particular sentence, it might be helpful to include EO in there for I. Okay, so hablaba. And one more for the imperfect. They were eating chicken with rice. So we're looking for the third person plural. They were eating. Let's see what you have to say about that. All right, so everybody's voted. And again, we have a split scenario. So correct response is the second one, the one in green, comían. They were eating. The third one, comieron, that is the preterite. So that's the tense we learned before the imperfect, again, to describe past completed. So if we say they ate chicken with rice, okay, they ate it, they're done eating it, they're not eating it anymore, you would use that third option there. And the fourth one is a whole different person. So if you want to say you were eating, the fourth option would be selected. So our only response that makes sense in this one, the second one in green, comían. All right, moving into now the last topic of today's webinar, past participle. Now we have two ways to form the past participle, again, depending on what kind of verb you're working with. So to form the past participle of an AR verb, all you're going to do is add ado, ADO, to the stem of the infinitive. So in the case of hablar, take off that AR, we add ado. So your hablado means spoken. With the ER and the IR verbs, instead of ado, it's ido. So comer becomes comido, and that means eaten. Now, if we say spoken or eaten, it really doesn't make sense unless we do something to it. So what happens is the past participle often acts as an adjective. Okay, so be it that it's an adjective, it must agree in gender and number with the noun it modifies. And what you're going to do is combine the past participle with a star, which is one of the verbs to be. So generally, to form this whole construction, the first step I would identify the infinitive of the verb you're working with, okay, the main verb. The second step to form that past participle, so either ado or ido, depending on the ending. And then finally come up with the correct form of a star and then change its ending, the past participle ending, so it reflects in gender and number with the noun it modifies. So essentially what we're dealing with here is 4 different forms, okay? And you can see it demonstrated here with comer, which is to eat. So if we wanted to say that third person singular form, and you're dealing with a masculine noun, okay, your form would be está comido, with an O on the end. If you have a feminine noun, the O on comido actually becomes an A, so está comida. Over to the plural, we think the third person plural of a star in the present is están, so están comidos, OS. Feminine, están comidas, feminine plural. So to demonstrate this with some sentences, el almuerzo está comido. Here we have a masculine noun, okay, lunch. The lunch is eaten. Versus the feminine, la carne está comida. And here we have a feminine noun. Now, a couple of general tips here. If you've not been to our articles and noun webinar, how do we know what is a masculine noun? How do we know what a feminine noun is? So a couple of things. El and la, these are articles. Okay, they mean the. And they're going to directly indicate the gender of the noun you're working with. So el be masculine, la is feminine. Another thing is that a lot of nouns that end with O are masculine nouns. Not always the case, but a good majority of the time it is. A lot of nouns that end with A are usually feminine, but here we have la carne, okay, and carne does not end with an A, it ends with an E, so there's an exception to the rule. But generally you can keep those tips in mind. So here they are in the singular, again, masculine and feminine. To the plural, los, okay, los almuerzos están comidos. So this os in almuerzos and comidos are literally going together. Okay, they have the same ending. So does los, okay? And las carnes están comidas, okay, es, because it's feminine. So generally, this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with these 4 different forms depending on gender, depending on number. Okay, so what we're going to try and do one more time is do some polls with past participle. And our first one, we're going to use the verb cerrar, to close. And we're trying to say the door is closed. Okay, so knowing what we know about está and están, right, in the singular or the plural. Here we have a singular subject, the door. How would we say is closed? Please vote now. Okay, everybody's voted. Now, we have a split once again. First response would be incorrect. Here's why. The O in cerrado would have to be a masculine noun. In this case, we have la, and we have an A as the noun ending. Okay, so this is signaling to us this is definitely a feminine noun. Okay, so our second response here in green is actually correct. Está cerrada, okay, has to be an A on the end of cerrada. The fourth option, están. It wouldn't be están because it is a singular subject. It would have to be está. Okay, if we said Las Puertas, okay, that would be están. However, there would also be an S on the end of cerrada. So it'd have to be están cerradas, going with Las Puertas. So option number 2 would be correct. And let's try one more. This time we're going to deal here with a plural noun. Using the verb lavar, to wash, how would we say the dishes are washed? Los platos. Please vote now. Okay, everybody's voted. And we do have let me see here. We do have the correct response, están lavados, with 67%. Okay, the OS in lavados directly correlates to the platos and the los, again, all ending with that OS. It's a masculine plural noun, so it must be that. The fourth form that someone else had selected is actually a combination of verbs. So están just means they are, and lavan is the present, third plural. So they wash. So this is like they are, they wash. Okay, so can't be number 4. All right, and that does conclude our webinar for today. So you may definitely ask any prego and test, any questions you have now in the webinar question area. Dan will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. If you don't have time to stick around, please use one of the contact options on your screen. And we both wish you buena suerte en español, good luck in Spanish, and have a great day.